Hi, I'm Robin. Welcome to my forge. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about the tools of the trade that I use with metalwork. This here is a Civil War era cavalry forge. I've had it since I first started out, like 44 years ago. And it's got, what it has here is a hand crank. It has gears in it, so you can crank it really quite slowly and get a good flow of air. You can take it down to a whisper when you've got something really delicate, you want it hot, but you don't want it to burn. It's little whispers. If you got something you really just want to crank away at it, you get this thing cranking well up to Jeremiah. But anyway, you got the forge, and there's a lot to maintaining the forge fire. It burns coal. It's a bituminous coal. It starts off like a little black rock. As it burns and combines with gases, it puffs up like a piece of styrofoam. This is what really gives you the heat that will melt the metal. I get it at Elkhorn, Cumberland Elkhorn Coal down on Shelby Street. And they have some of the best. I'm so lucky, or we are so lucky that we have some of the best coal in the country, blacksmithing coal. And yeah, I buy it down there. I drive my truck down and shovel it in and bring it back home. And you always store your coal outdoors because you want it to be damp and wet, and you're wetting it down anyway. So yeah, I keep mine in a wheelbarrow outside the door. And oddest thing about it is, to make the fire hotter, you put water on it. The water helps the gases inside the coal combine with the heat to produce those high level temperatures. In order to work something in the forge, you need to hold on to it with something. Now, I do prefer, if I can hold on to a long piece of metal, even if I'm making a small thing, if I can hold it in my hand and work that end, then cut it off later, it's easier than holding on to it with a pair of tongs, usually, unless it's something really awkward, you just need that extra grip. But there are all kinds of tongs. These are my horseshoe tongs, and these are the ones I use most of all on everything. They're just, you know, they're just comfortable for me. Yeah, I've got a variety of tongs, and each one is good for their purpose. This is like my most general use. I've made my own tongs before out of a pair of pliers, and these are like locking pliers, so they're a little bit adjustable, but they have come in handy where none of my other things will work. These work. So what I'm going to do is find my horseshoe I had selected here. You stick it in the fire, you bury it. You don't bury it too deep, you just want it buried. You want heat underneath it, you want heat above it. The coal you pack around and try to seal out all the oxygen you can. It makes it like a little oven in there. And then you get cranking. Okay, so that's two of those tools. This tool is called a hardy. This is what I use when I cut off a piece of metal. You know, rather than going to the saw or whatever, I can just take a piece of metal and cut it against that with the hammer. It fits into my anvil. We have slots in the anvil to fit a bunch of different things, and one for punching holes and things. And of course a hammer. Hammer, tongs, forge, anvil. That's all you need. And for an anvil, you don't really have to have an anvil. I have a scrap of railroad tie over there, and you can do just about anything you need to do with that. I'm gonna dunk my tongs in my water occasionally. Yeah, you need a quench bucket. Okay, this is nice and hot. I'm just gonna hold it above here. I want a diagonal line, because I'm going to make a point on the end of it. All right, this is almost all the way through, and I tend to be way too rough on my hardies, so I'm stopping before I get all the way through. I'm just going to jerk it apart. Ta-da! Now these are ready for me to work, and I'm going to draw them out and create some festive Christmas ornaments out of horseshoes. Who knew? Moving over here, this is the anvil. This anvil weighs 128 pounds. And this little stand here I made, it holds all my hammers. I've got different weights and different styles of hammer. Each one, you know, will do a little bit something different. One's good for flattening. You know, one side's good for stretching out. This is a ball peen. You can give it some texture and help stretch things out. This is my most common hammer. I think I call this one Bubba because I use them the most for everything. Yeah, all my hammers kind of had names. This, after I get done with all the hammering and I just want to shape it, I don't want any hammer marks, I have got this one, I call this Grandma. She will flatten it, but real gently you get to shape it, doesn't leave a mark. You want to have a better wire brush than this, but you use the wire brush constantly to brush off the anvil just to keep it clean while you work. But there are all kinds of little attachments you can use to make your job better. This is a scroller, and of course I made this. Us blacksmiths, we make everything we can. You know, why pay someone else to do something that you can make one better? But you take a hot piece of metal and you stick it in the scroller and you can bend it around in one fell swoop and have a scroll. And that way you can have all your scrolls uniform if you're putting them together. Yeah, I started with a scroll that I already liked, and I said, well, okay, this is going to be my pattern. And I laid it on the piece of metal and drew a chalk line around it, and then I formed this little piece. You know, I just took some stock and went around there, and then you put like a little second story on it there. Yeah. But yeah, you can make them as big or as little as you want. This is like a little cradle I use. You can put a bend or a curve in something. I use these when I'm making my lizards or my seahorse like this out of a horseshoe rasp. I can just stick this right down in there and hit in the middle. And I start off bigger, get a little bit of a bend, and then move to a smaller one to get a tighter bend. And then I've got different cuts, punches and cutters. This is a pritchel which you use to start a horseshoe nail. And this is just a means to make a cutoff or a big line. This is a real wide thing. I will purchase things like this was at Peddler's Mall, you know, it was $1. I'm like, oh, I think I could use that. But these are things that I made, you know, just a piece of angle iron, piece of square stock, I welded them together. I find most of the metal I have, I mean, I did not buy it, I find it. And people give me metal. They are constantly, here, you want this? At the time, I usually will look at it and say, I have no idea what I will ever do with that. But eventually, I will use it, and then it'll be like, boom, I need more of them, you know? But yeah, eventually I use everything, and sometimes I do buy metal at like metal supermarkets or Neil LaVille steel. I have in the past, but I really get my inspiration just by looking what I've got, and you know, something will catch my eye and say, wow, I could make that a little bit more like that and have something. Okay, here's some of the other stuff I use in the line of blacksmithing. It's always good to have a vise. You can put your metal in it, twist it, hold it. I've got an assortment of files and rasps to do a little finer work, get little sharp edges off, or you know, create little grooves. There's a lot of handwork that can go into a piece. I've got this sander, I've got a basic grinder. My very best friend is this wire wheel, because everything gets rusty, and from the time I polish it up and set it down and come back out to get it, it'll have a coat of rust on it. So I've got that wire wheel. So yeah, rust is like, I love it. It's a beautiful patina. I've come to embrace rust, but it's also like my worst enemy. It's my frenemy. That's it for today. I look forward to meeting you all, and I hope you join me at my Zoom workshop. I'll be open for you to ask me questions and follow along. I'll be working on something, playing with fire.